Here I am, the bad guy, in my awakening moment coming out of narcissistic abuse, completely cut off from people who call themselves family, but who really only ever tried to kill, steal, and destroy any good thing in my life. And because of the failure of friends, and the failure of church even, to help people like me understand the nature of narcissism and to help us establish healthy boundaries against it. Nah. It's like we live in a time of the great relationship purge. I did try everything that I was taught is good and true. I tried patience with those people, silently enduring their passive-aggressive jabs in hopes that it would eventually die down on its own, but my patience just seemed to be a wall that the narcissist wanted to try to tear down. I tried to laugh off their inappropriate jokes and offenses in hopes that my laughter would lighten the atmosphere. But it seems that my laughter was just an attack on them. It's like joy attacks narcissists and offends them. I tried prayer before each encounter with them, even at times in their presence, in hopes that prayer would bring peace and unify our time together. Yeah, but then I was just told not to bring my God around and mocked for having any faith. I tried to apologize for any offense that I may have caused in hopes that showing some humility might prove non-threatening intentions, but it just seems that apologizing would give them permission to further punish my presence. It's as if I was just admitting fault and deserved to be mistreated. I tried to confront them on their words and their behaviors in hopes to establish some form of common courtesy and mutual respect. But then I was just mocked for being too sensitive and accused of being judgmental. I tried silence in hopes of avoiding possibly provoking them, but then they would just provoke me. It's as if silence irritated them and they had to lure me into a trap constantly to feed off of my reactions. I tried creating distance in hopes that time apart would reset any bad emotions and cool down any animosity, only to see them start to harass me and troll and stalk through social media, all while they were accusing me of being selfish, as if I had no rights to stay away. And that's when I asked for guidance from church, from friends, only to be told that I have to keep loving, give more, forgive more, on and on and on. Now, I'm done. So that makes me the bad guy. I never wanted to be the bad guy. I never thought of myself as the bad guy.
Maybe I'm overthinking this whole being the bad guy thing. It seems like it doesn't even matter anymore in this narcissistic generation that we live in. In a world full of narcissistic people, it's like the lines are all blurred. There's no real definition for what's good and what's bad. You know, when I was brought up, I thought I had a pretty healthy understanding of what being a bad guy was. Stealing, killing, destroying, these things were all considered bad, but it seems like in a narcissistic society, these things are actually celebrated, especially today. People celebrate violence, people celebrate stealing, people celebrate destroying things. These things are now considered good. And meanwhile, people, especially narcissistic people now, are demonizing those who just want to do good, those who want to speak their truth, those who want to stand in confidence, those who want to have faith, those who want to believe in unity and love. These things are now considered bad. Maybe it's always been this way. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of time, stories of Cain and Abel in the Bible. Cain killed his own brother Abel. You see, to Cain, Abel was the bad guy. And for what? All Abel did was serve the Lord with all of his heart, with all of his mind, with all of his soul, with all of his efforts. His own brother killed him for it in a narcissistic fit of rage. How dare you do things so boldly and confidently and good? To Cain, Abel was the bad guy. And then you have Martin Luther King Jr., who used his voice to try to rally people for equality. That's good. But to a narcissistic society or part of society, he was the bad guy. You have Charlie Kirk, who would go to college campuses and encourage free speech and debate and just use his voice and confidently, which is good. Nah, to a narcissistic, evil society, he was the bad guy. How dare somebody promote open dialogue and free speech? Even Jesus, the story of Jesus, now that I'm thinking about this, Jesus taught, he healed, he loved. He healed people, sicknesses, illnesses. Yet to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the narcissists of the time, he was the bad guy. Maybe that's why that story is given to us. I know a lot of churches will talk about Jesus' crucifixion as a sacrifice for sin, but what if that's just one half of what is really being said in that message? What if God wants us to know that the other part of that message is this: in this world full of narcissistic people, it doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter if you heal people. It doesn't matter if you love people. It doesn't matter how confident you are. It doesn't matter how much you try to do right. In a narcissistic world, they will try to kill you. The narcissist will hate you. It doesn't matter how good you are. You can be perfect. Christ was perfect, and it didn't matter. He was perfect in all his ways. He was the definition of what being a good person is, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to stop the narcissistic people from viewing him as the bad guy that they had to get rid of. So who are we to think that we can try hard to not be the bad person? Who are we to think that that would ever work? Who was I to think that that would work? I was in a toxic, narcissistic family full of dysfunction and yelling and screaming and arguing and carrying on. And who was I to think that I could go in there and try to be a good person and help them? Who was I to think that when they started to make me out to be the bad guy, that I could fix that? Jesus couldn't even make himself no longer be the bad guy to the narcissistic Pharisees and Sadducees. So why even bother? Why bother trying to be the good guy? Why worry about being the bad guy? This is what I believe the whole exercise of narcissistic abuse is all about now. It's an exercise in learning not to care whether or not you're the good guy or the bad guy. It doesn't matter. You could be in a relationship and do everything right with the narcissistic person, but they're going to view you as a bad guy. And once they view you as a bad guy, there's no going back from that. There's no going back from that. And it doesn't matter if it's your family or if it's a love affair or if it's a friendship. When they view you as a bad person because of your views, because of your opinions, because of your confidence, because of your joy, because of who you are, because of the way you dress, because of the way you look, when they view you as a bad guy, to them, you are the bad guy. There's no need to try not to be a bad person in a healthy relationship. In a good relationship, you'll be accepted, you'll be received, even your flaws, even your quirks, even the little things that you might not even be excited about you. It doesn't matter. It's true love, true acceptance accepts all of you. But in a relationship where you're meant to feel like there's something wrong with you, why waste your time in that relationship? That's not how life is meant to be. That's not how marriage is supposed to be. That's not how family's supposed to be. And I believe this exercise of narcissistic abuse today has helped me to break free of the belief that I have to try harder to not be a bad person in a relationship. No. Relationships now will never be the same. I will never again be involved with family or with a love affair or with friendships in which I'm made to feel like I'm a bad person and I have to try harder. There is no trying in an intimate relationship. You're either received or you're not. Why bother? Doesn't matter. If there's anything that Jesus has showed us, Charlie Kirk has showed us, Martin Luther King Jr. showed us, it's that trying to interact and love with people who see you as a bad person, it's going to kill you. This is what narcissistic abuse has awakened me to. It's not about worrying whether or not I'm a bad person. It doesn't matter.
I don't have to focus on not being a bad person anymore. Narcissistic abuse has freed me of worrying about whether or not I'm a good or a bad person. I believe the most important thing is to live in authenticity. Authenticity over trying to be the good person. Authenticity over trying to be the good guy. At some point, if you're trying too hard not to be a bad person, I've discovered that it just becomes inauthentic. It becomes silencing. It becomes choking. It becomes this hiding away of my true voice. And I don't want that for me or for anybody. I'll live my life standing in my truth, standing in my views, accepting who I am, owning who God has made me to be. And I'll navigate relationships based on who resonates with that and who I resonate with. Never again will I ever find somebody different than me and try not to be the bad person with them. That is a killer. And that is what narcissistic abuse has awakened me to. Yeah.
I feel better.
This has been a good discussion.
Thank you.
Can we get a beer or something? This coffee is all right, but I need a beer. Kevin. Very good seeing you today. Very good listening to you. You've gotten an awful lot off your chest. You had a lot to say. You're growing immensely in your healing and in your understanding. You should be very proud of yourself. I'd like to see you again for another discussion, perhaps tomorrow. And absolutely, if you would like to get a beer, let's go. You deserve it. All right? Come on.